Hey everybody, how we doing? Hope you're having a nice day. It's a beautiful Sunday. It's sunny. Got the hat on because it's bright outside. But it's nice, breezy, feels good. Got a haircut too. How about that? Oh yeah. So, bring on the heat. I'm ready for it. Anyways, in a previous video, I did an observational drawing of what's behind me. Those kayaks and the fence and the lime tree. And so, today I'm going to add value to the drawing. So, I'm not going to use color, I'm just going to use value. I'm just going to use pencils. And I want to remind you that value is the lightness or darkness of a color or of a mark. And, we've done value scales before, which is just an exercise of making a dark color, medium color, and a lighter color. And I love color. But for this one, I'm going to use a pencil. So let's look at it and examine the composition for value. All right, so when I'm looking at this composition, I'm not really looking at color right now. I'm looking at value. So I want to look for the lightest and darkest values in the composition. And the lightest value I see is the very tip of this kayak right there. That's a super light blue, almost white. The darkest value is underneath the kayaks. That's in shadow. So this is going to be a dark value. That's my lightest values. The rest of these are medium values. So like this fence is kind of like a medium to dark value. When I look at this lime tree, it's really bright. It stands out against the fence. So I'm thinking this will be a lighter value than the fence. And when it comes to these two kayaks, I'll probably make them a lighter value than the fence as well. So they really stand out. So to summarize, the fence will be the darkest value, especially underneath the kayaks. That'll be the lightest value right there, the tip of that kayak. And then the rest of the kayaks and the tree will be kind of medium values. It'll be really fun. I'm excited about this. So let's get to add color and value to it, shall we? Here is the drawing that I did, the observational drawing. You got the lime tree and the kayaks and the paddle. The paddle wasn't there, or it isn't there when we were just looking at this composition. But I do remember the paddle had a black handle, and that might end up being the darkest value in the whole composition. The ends of the paddles were white, so that's going to be a light value too. I'm using just a normal pencil, just a number 2 school pencil. And I'm going to use a technique called hatching, which is just a series of lines. I want to come in and make this handle dark, because I remember this handle super, super, super dark. So just going back and forth. Now, if you want it darker, you can always come across the other direction, right? Cross hatching. So that's the darkest value in the composition. Now, when we were looking outside, underneath the kayaks, this is in shadow. The sun's coming from the sky, obviously, and underneath the kayaks, there's going to be a shadow. So I'm going to just start coloring right over the top of my marker lines, and I'm going to push it down kind of hard to make this a dark value. You remember when we're going with our lines in one direction, we can go overlap those lines in the other direction, which we call cross hatching, to make the value darker. So that's where the shadow is going to be. I'm going to keep making this darker, and then as you'll see, I'm going to color the whole fence right now, and as it gets lower and out of the shadow, I'll make it a little bit lighter, and then I'm just going to color the whole fence. I am going to make the fence lighter than this dark value here, though. I want this to stand out. So this kayak paddle, or yeah, this paddle is going to be really dark. Behind it, I'm going to make it a little bit lighter, probably like that. That'll give it some contrast. Contrast is the difference between two things, and in art, contrast is really powerful, right? It makes things stand out. So if you have a dark value next to a lighter value, each part's really going to stand out. But if these two values were the same, or both really dark, it would be hard to see one from the other. So I'm going to take a few minutes to color the whole fence. Alright, so I got the value into the fence. You know, when we zoom in, you can see I've got a lot of lines that are crossing over each other. Like, you know, we call that cross hatching. Some people, when they add value to things with pencils, really like to have not have these lines showing, and that's fine. You can take your finger and blend it all together. If you have a lot of pencil on there, it'll be really smooth. The texture will be really smooth. I really like how I can see. Oh, excuse me. I like how I can see all the pencil lines. I just like the energy and the movement. And it's subtle, but what I tried to do, or I think what I did, is made the value down here a little bit darker than the top of the fence, because the sun's probably shining a little bit brighter on the top of the fence. You get down to the bottom of the fence, probably a little bit of shadow. Maybe not, but it just looks more interesting to me. I'll probably do a little bit more value here on the bottom. Makes it a bit more interesting too. Okay, so now kayaks. Remember, this is where the sun was shining really bright, and the color of this kayak was like almost a white, and then it got darker this way. So I am going to color these kayaks. Well, yeah, little pencil, not really color. I'm gonna make it really light here and get progressively darker. But I'm probably gonna have the value for this to be lighter than the fence. So I got my value on my kayaks now. I'm gonna leave the paddle just completely white. So you can see how this part of the kayak, I added a little bit of value, but not much at all. Then I got a little bit darker. You can see the cross hatching. I decided to do a little bit extra value here, so it's not all the same value. So you can see this kayak, the whole thing has value. This part of the kayak is a little bit darker than the bottom. And then the kayak up top, it gets progressively, like a medium value, and gets progressively lighter to the highlight up here. Let's see. So, really happy with the way the paddle stands out and the front of the kayak stands out. One thing you can do to make things stand out is to add contrast. So, you know, making the areas around the lightest values a little bit darker is going to help those light values really pop and stand out. So I'm liking this. So the next place I'm going to go is the lime tree. So the trunk of the lime tree, darker value than probably the leaves of the lime tree. So I don't want to make the trunk darker than the paddle. I do want to make it darker than the fence. That way it stands out, right? So, you know, I can come back and try to make this even darker. That's about as dark as I'm going to get with this pencil, though. Boom. So, now for the leaves. I didn't draw each individual leaf, right? I just kind of drew an organic shape to represent the top of the tree. And even though I'm not drawing the individual leaves, you know, this is obviously a tree trunk. So these are obviously leaves. I don't want to color the whole thing just one value, though. Matter of fact, let's go look at the tree itself for value. Alright, so one of the most important things I'm seeing looking at this tree is that within the tree there is a wide range of values. Some parts of the tree, like here and here, it's like a very light green, and then some parts are darker green. So when I color this with pencil, I want to have a variety of values. I'll make it more dynamic. So some parts are going to be really light, some parts will be darker. And the way I'm going to achieve that variety of value is just to, you know, I'm going to do a lot of cross hatching. In some parts of the tree, lots of hatch marks, which will make a darker value. Some parts of the tree, not as many hatching marks, which will make a lighter value. I'll also, you know, push down harder on the pencil, which makes the value darker. Other parts I'll go lighter. So let's go back in and take care of that tree. Well, there's the tree, and you can see some parts of my tree I have really light values like that, and then some parts are really dark. So much like the tree itself, you know, it's full of light values and dark values. And I try to be pretty loose with my hatching just to make it pretty dynamic. So, I'm looking at this and I really like it. What needs to be done next, though, I think I'm going to color the grass. I'm not going to do all the grass, but I am going to do the grass. And much like the tree, which has a variety of values within the tree, when you look at grass, there's a lot of varieties of value in the grass. Because, the grass has dark greens and light greens, and some parts reflect the sunshine and some parts from shadow. So I'm going to do a lot of hatching down here, but they're all going to go in the same direction, kind of up and down, just to kind of mimic the grass. So I'm going to make it pretty dark too. I think I'll have a relatively darker values compared to the fence. Oh yeah. Alright, so there's my grass. And I like it. I got some parts of it that are really dark, some parts that are lighter. I love the energy and all the hatch lines. That was super fun. It almost felt like controlled scribbling, almost. But you can see the hatching lines in the fence. Some are going horizontal, some are vertical, some are diagonal. Down here in the grass, I try to make them all basically vertical, just up and down, because that's kind of the direction the grass grows. It grows up. So let's make that a little bit darker. Trying to keep values that are similar away from each other, so that gives you more contrast. Matt, speaking of that, I kind of like how I just made that part of the fence darker. Maybe I'll do all that. Oh yeah, that's kind of nice. Maybe start darker and shade into a lighter value as I go higher. Kind of makes the fence pop against the grass. I'm also noticing that the value in my fence is way more blended and smooth compared to the value of the grass, which is way more rough. It's kind of nice. So, to use our vocabulary, the texture of the fence is smoother than the texture of the grass. And the kind of grass that we have here in Florida is most of it's called St. Augustine grass. It's pretty rough. And while the texture of my fence isn't the smoothest in the world, it is smoother compared to the grass. I like that. That looks really nice. Yes, I'm going to do that all the way across. All right, so the last thing is going to be the sky, which is this, and then these lights. I'm going to leave these lights white with no value. The cord, or the line, I guess, that the lights hang from, that's black. So I'm going to make this a pretty dark value, probably as dark as the paddle. And then behind I'll do a really light value for the sky. Lighter than the fence, for sure. Oh, I think I am pretty much done. You can see in the sky there, really light value, and then kind of darker for the line. The lights I left white. So we've got a variety of values and a variety of textures. The darkest values here, and also on the paddle. See on the lines. We've got a good medium value here for the fence. However, the bottom of the fence is a little bit of darker value than the top, and this shadow under the kayaks a little bit darker too. We have a variety of value in the grass, and we left the texture of the grass pretty rough because it mimics the actual texture of the grass. Pretty rough texture here in the tree too, but I really like it. I left the limes really light as well. You know what? That'd be kind of fun. I don't really want to use any color in this at all, but I kind of want to make those lime green just to have a little pop of color. Hold on a second. There you go. So I got a green colored pencil, coloring my limes. I like that little pop of color. That's nice. I would say though, using just value with no color is really challenging. Because usually when we're coloring something, we'll use different colors for the different parts of the picture, and that makes different things stand out. When you take away color, it's way more challenging to color with the pencil, in my opinion, because you have to be very mindful of the dark values, the light values, the medium values, and texture to make your coloring job interesting. So, last thing I want to do is make a little title for it, My Backyard, because this is my backyard. And I'm gonna put the date, April 2020, and I'm gonna save this in one of my sketchbooks, and it's something I'll always look back on and be like, oh yeah, that's right, I remember those times. There's my sign my name, J for Jonathan, Lynn because that's my last name. So good luck with your value coloring exercise, and share if you want to. Cheers.